Uranus was created by the ruler of the Celestial Palace, using ancient technology to combine lightning and air energy into a formidable elemental being. He can absorb energy around him to enhance his regeneration ability, making him a team-fighting tank with awesome recovery capabilities. His passive skill, Radiance. Uranus absorbs the energy generated by attacks made against him to strengthen himself, regenerating a certain amount of HP per second over a period of time. This effect can be stacked up to 20 times. This is Uranus' core skill. When Radiance is fully stacked, the superior resilience it provides allows Uranus to dominate his lane without ever needing to return to base. Which brings us to his first skill, Ionic Edge. Uranus releases 2 light blades that orbit around him, dealing magic damage to the enemy targets, while reducing their physical attack, magic power, and movement speed. Each stack of Radiance increases damage dealt by this skill. Each light blade can only deal damage to the same target once. This is Uranus' main attack skill, and the ability to move while casting it means he can stay hot on the enemy's heels, and use it very liberally. It is important to note that the damage dealt by this skill increases with Radiance stacks, allowing Uranus to deal even more damage. Which brings us to his second skill, Transcendent Ward. Uranus generates an energy shield that absorbs damage and grants him immunity to slow effects, and increases his movement speed when it's active. The shield deals magic damage to nearby enemies at the end of its duration, or when it's destroyed. The deceleration immunity and movement speed increase granted by this skill makes it easier for Uranus to pursue enemies without fear of being slowed. Uranus can also quickly rush off to the jungle to build up stacks for his passive skill Radiance, and thanks to its healing effect he can clear the jungle without taking damage. Which brings us to his ultimate, Consecration. Uranus unleashes energy stored within his body to disable the designated hero, dealing magic damage whilst granting him the Radiance buff. After briefly disabling the target, Uranus pulls himself and the target together, dealing magic damage. The disable effect of this skill is set to make one of the most important control skills in the game, as no hero can escape Uranus' clutches.
The Mighty Legend. Kacha has super high physical defense, strong initiation, and qual control abilities, and he has the most awesome skill effect in the game. Muscle of Iron, Bone of Steel, Kacha. Passive skill. The lower HP Kacha has, the higher physical defense he gains, and he can restore HP by attacking the enemy who has higher HP than him. First skill. Kacha shatters the front ground, dealing magical damage and slowing enemy. Second skill. Kacha shouts loudly, forcing nearby enemies to basic attack him, countering the attacker when he is hit and dealing magical damage to nearby enemies. Ultimate. Kacha shortly charges and jumps towards the target area, knocking nearby enemies into the air and dealing magical damage. The Mighty Legend highly jumps and crushes the enemies.
Hi everyone! Welcome to our new episode of Hero Spotlight, featuring Atlas, the Ocean Gladiator.
Not just our home, it is who we are.
Atlas is a hero that thrives in teamfights. He can charge in the middle of the fight with the movement speed buff of his ejected state and crowd control the enemies with his ultimate. Meanwhile, with enhanced defense and slowing effects provided by his passive, Atlas is a literal teamfight machine. Second skill, Perfect Match.
Of the sea are cold bodies of
Atlas enters ejected state, gaining movement speed and immunity to slow effects. In this state, the Mecha Sentry will follow the pilot at an increasing speed. Once they meet, Atlas will return to the mecha, dealing magic damage to and stunning the enemies nearby. In ejected state, Atlas and the Mecha Sentry share the same HP bar and take reduced damage. This skill serves as Atlas's diving tool, The bonus movement speed allows him to dive into the enemy formation rapidly, while tanking a lot of damage with the damage reduction of this skill. When he enters the mecha, he can control the surrounding targets again. First skill, Annihilate. Atlas smashes the ground and causes 3 explosions, dealing magic damage to the enemies. If using this skill in ejected state, both the pilot and mecha will cast Annihilate. This is Atlas's most important source of damage, which can be double as effective when used in ejected state. Ultimate Fatal Links. Atlas hurls chains in all directions and starts to channel, dealing magic damage to the enemy heroes hit and slowing them down. Using the skill again while channeling, Atlas will drag the targets towards him and plunk them down on the target location, dealing magic damage. In ejected state, this skill will rapidly draw the Mecha Sentry to Atlas for reuniting. This ultimate is extremely powerful in a team fight, especially when combined with the fast movement speed in ejected state. By controlling all the enemy targets in the affected area and throwing them towards your teammates, this skill can create instant wipeout opportunities for your team. Passive skill, Frigid Breath. Atlas generates frigid breath around him for a short duration each time he casts a skill. Enemies who stay in the area for 1.5 seconds will have their movement and attack speed reduced. They can remove the slow effect immediately by leaving the area of frigid breath. Atlas also gains extra physical and magic defense while inside the frigid breath. The crowd control and durability provided by this skill can significantly reduce the threats that Atlas faces in close quarter combat.
Hylos is the Grand Warden of the Centaurs. Being the hardiest and most agile centaur, he's able to stride across the battlefield magnificently, utilizing his very own life force to smite down his enemies. Hylos' passive skill is Thicken Blood. Points of mana received from equipment and emblems will also give Hylos extra points of health. When mana is not enough, health can be used instead to cast skills. This allows Hylos to have more health than an average tank. His first skill is Law and Order. He gathers nature's energy and fires an energy ball at the locked-on target, dealing magical damage and stunning. This is the Centaur's only CC skill, so use it under the right circumstances in combination with Ring of Punishment for enormous damage. The Grand Warden's bread and butter is his second skill, Ring of Punishment, where he releases the power of the Centaurs to summon forth a Ring of Punishment every second, dealing magical damage to surrounding enemies. This skill also stacks Warden's Fury. Every stack of Warden's Fury will reduce the enemy's movement speed and their attack speed. Enemies will also take more damage with Ring of Punishment. Warden's Fury can stack a maximum of 10 times. This is Hylos' main damage skill. Try to keep close to enemies for sustained and consistent damage. Hylos' ultimate skill, Glorious Pathway, is a team fight beast. Hylos creates a glorious pathway, in which Hylos will heal maximum health every second while on the pathway. Allies will have the movement speed increase moving towards the pathway, while enemies moving away from the pathway will have the movement speed decreased. This skill, if used correctly during a team fight, can change the entire course of the game.
Khufra is a tank with strong CC, who can dash towards enemies and stop enemies from using blink skills.
All shall succumb to my power.
He used to be the ruthless tyrant in the Western Desert. Enhancing himself by Spell Curse, he then gained mighty power. Skill 1, Tyrant's Revenge. Khufra pulls the bandage on his arm to launch himself in the specified direction, dealing physical damage to all enemy units along the path. When blinking to the furthest distance or encountering a first enemy hero, Khufra will immediately stop, dealing physical damage to enemies nearby and then knocking them up. It's the main skill for Khufra to join the battle. The longer he charges, the longer the knock-up effect will be. Try to better use it with Ultimate Tyrant's Rage and control enemy heroes much longer. Skill 2, Bouncing Ball. Kufra uses Bandage to wrap himself into a magical bouncing ball, increasing his own physical and magical defense. Enemies trying to use blink skills to move across Kufra will be knocked up. Each time the magical bouncing ball hits the ground, it will deal magic damage to enemies nearby and reduce their movement speed. This skill counters the heroes that are good at blink skills. They cannot move across the bouncing ball. Ultimate Tyrant's Rage. Kufra pulls back all enemy targets around him toward the front, dealing physical damage and slowing them down for several seconds. If the enemies are knocked against obstacles, extra physical damage will be inflicted upon them, and they will be stunned instead of slowed. Better use it with first skill, and it would be easier for Kufra to deal huge damage and control enemies for a long time. Passive Spell Curse. Kufra activates the spell Curse left by Esmeralda every several seconds to increase the range of the next basic attack, dealing magic damage and slowing them down. Meanwhile, Kufra restores his HP. Each time Kufra uses his skill to control enemy heroes, Spell Curse's CD is reduced. It's smart strategy to use it and trigger passive...